Good afternoon, students. So yesterday we were discussing on servlets and JSPs. We could not see much. So very quickly we will discuss today about JSPs, and then we move on to XML discussion, and then we will be ending our session with the mock test as said. So the mock test have framed questions from collections, multi-threading, and RDBMS SQL JDBC. I hope all of you have gone through a little on those topics. And before beginning the discussion on JSPs, I would like to show you one small thing which we did not achieve yesterday. So yesterday, at the end of the session, we have created uh, a web project where this we have created a first servlet, second servlet, and then the index.html containing the form which is reading username and password. And I hope you remembered what we have done. So what we have done is we are checking if the password is Krishna. Yeah, here you can see. So if the password is Krishna, then only it should go to the second servlet. So I already mentioned. So here you can provide either a servlet or you can provide JSP, you can provide HTML, you can give some image. So anything you can give here. This is just a resource that you have to pass it. And one thing which I missed out there is while copying, I have just copied this code for the else block and I have just added this wrong password message. And when we have executed, we could not see this wrong password being displayed. The small change which I missed out is while copying this, I did not change here this forward. So we have used the same forward, and the name itself can make us understand forward means the request will be forwarded to some other resource, whereas if we use include, whatever the contents or whatever the things you are going to uh, place it over the web page, in addition to that, whatever the include resource you are giving, that also will be included. So yesterday, before ending the session, you might have seen the word here forward only. As I was saying, so since we are running late, that's the reason I have just copied and pasted, and I missed out this replacing the forward with include, and that's the reason when we have run this and when we are giving some wrong password other than Krishna, then you might have seen the same index.html is being shown, but this message was not being displayed. So this is the reason. So forward means the request will be forwarded to the resource that was mentioned in the get request dispatcher. Include means in addition to the content that was added to the web page, next to that the resource will be included. That's the basic difference you need to remember. So since yesterday here forward was there, when we are giving other than Krishna, you might have seen the same index.html being there without that message. So that's the only change. Once again, I'll just quickly run this and move on to this JSP discussion. So run on server as usual. So it will ask for restart. So it will take time. Uh, Allow access. Yeah, here it came. So for name I haven't given any constraint, you can give any name. But for password I have given Krishna. But if I give other than Krishna, now you can see the message wrong password being displayed, and then the index.html is being included. So that's what the difference between forward and include. So forward means it will completely be forwarded to the resource that was mentioned by you. The resource can be either a image, it can be a servlet, it can be a JSP, it can be a HTML, anything. And if I am using include means whatever the content that you are adding to the web page, that will be added first, and then the things will be included. And after this include also, you can still add some other text also, that also will add to this. So just I wanted to show this. Yesterday while I was executing, I could not get this message displayed there. So after ending the session, I have just checked what was the mistake I made. So then I realized that while copying, I have just copied the if block and pasted, and forgot to replace this forward with the include. So these are the two things we will be using. And this request dispatcher code is not mentioned in that PBL lab material also. That's the reason I thought of making you understand why this request dispatcher is useful. And in real time application development, compulsory we will be using this request dispatcher. And yeah, other thing I hope you have noticed in yesterday's session, the difference between do get and do post. So do post generally we will be using for when you have sensitive information which you don't want it to be appended in the URL that is being carried to the server. Whatever the request you are making, your request will be gone to the server now in order to get the desired response. So while the request is going to server, this whatever the search you are giving, that will not be appended in the URL. That means sensitive information can be protected by I think you might have heard about the term shoulder surfing attack. I think CSE students might be familiar with this term shoulder surfing attack, but EC people I don't know whether they know this or not. Shoulder surfing attack means others seeing the things, like if you are using a mobile, and when you are entering your password, or if you are in ATM and when you are entering password, and if anybody is behind you, they will be seeing the password. So that's what we call it, shoulder surfing attack in simple. So anyway, yeah, so that's how by using do post, the shoulder surfing attack can be prevented. Whereas with do get, the whatever the search or whatever the submission that is being done to the server, that will be appended to the URL. And I hope you have observed with Google also. So in the Google also, whatever the search string we give, that will be appended in the URL before getting the response. So that's how you will be using. And generally we will be using do get method when you have some query which doesn't contain any sensitive information, whereas do post you will use it for like forms. When you are submitting data with forms, all that information you will be using the do post. So yeah, that's what the points I thought of discussing. I hope you understood this, the difference between the request and forward of the request dispatcher. Sorry, forward and include of the request dispatcher. So now let's move on to JSP discussion quickly, and then we shall move on to XML. So yesterday itself I have given the intro why we are learning this servlets and JSPs, and I said by default and by nature web server will be responding with static pages only. That means web server, whatever the response it will give back to the client, they will be of static pages. But if we want dynamic responses, then we will be using these servlets and JSPs. And only servlets can also fulfill our need. Without even the use of JSP, only servlets can also fulfill our need. But still, why we are learning JSPs and why we are using JSPs? The reason is simple, because we are on an industry note. everyone is interested to separate the business logic from the presentation logic. So if we understand that whatever the visible components are there, we treat them as the presentation information. Whatever the logic we include for processing the input given in that presentation logic, I mean whatever the visual components are there, whatever the user interaction will be there with that, either through mouse clicks or either through keystrokes, based on the interaction by the user, we need to perform certain processing. Accordingly, we need to change the presentation that is being given to the user. So for that, we have to do some logic writing, and that logic writing we are going to do it in the servlets. And whatever the presentation that user will be interacting in the front end, that we are going to do it with JSPs. So this is the simplest point you can just remember. So basically we use JSPs for presentation purpose and servlets for implementing the business logic. This is the first thing you can just remember. And another thing is, it's very easy by using JSPs we can easily create the server side HTML pages. Whatever the name itself can make you understand, JSP stands for Java Server Pages. So it's nothing but the server side HTML pages. So JSPs are meant for creating server side HTML pages. So that's what the point need to be remembered. And coming to the different advantages that you will be getting with JSPs, first thing is it's very easy to develop. And next thing is, you can develop the server-side HTML pages very quickly by using JSPs. And another thing is, with servlets, every minor changes you make, compulsory you need to recompile it and redeploy it. But whereas with JSPs, you don't require that. You don't require to do that. So with servlets, every minor change you perform, whatever might be, it might be in the business logic or it might be the presentation logic that was included in your servlet code. Every minor change you make, you need to recompile it, you need to deploy it, and then you need to restart the server. But whereas with JSPs, you don't need to do all this thing. You can easily develop and you can quickly develop. And sorry, another advantage is you can write in less lines of code than compared to doing it with a servlet. The same presentation, if you implement with servlet, and the same presentation, if you try implementing with JSP, you can find the difference in lines of code also. So in less lines of code itself, you can achieve that with the JSPs. So these are the key advantages that you will be having with the use of JSPs over servlets. And next we have to discuss about the JSP life cycle. Coming to the JSP life cycle, the first step itself is you have to understand that it is creation of JSP page, and the next thing is completion of this JSP page, I mean compilation of the JSP page, and next thing is loading of the JSP page, and next is instantiating the JSP page, and next is initializing the JSP, and then the actual request will be processed, and once the request is processed, the next thing is destroy. So we have to perform destroying because it's meant for satisfying or processing the client request, and once that request is processed, it should be destroyed. So that's what the life cycle of JSP. And as the name itself makes you understand, JSP stands for Java Server Pages. So you can easily include your Java code also into the JSPs. And even though we are not performing any compilation separately, but implicitly a Java file will be generated when web server is parsing your JSP. So whenever your JSP file will be processed by the JSP parser, So JSP file will be processed by a JSP parser, and that JSP parser, once it processes your JSP file, it will generate a Java file which will be implicitly compiling and generating a dot class file. Suppose if you are creating a file with name a.jsp. Suppose you are creating a file with name a.jsp, and when you run this on web server, then internally, implicitly, a underscore jsp.java, a file will be created automatically, which will further be compiled and generates a underscore jsp.class file. I hope you are able to understand. So if you are creating a JSP file with a file name as a.jsp, then when you run this on web server, and the parser, that is the JSP parser, will process this a.jsp file, and it creates a underscore jsp.java file, which will be further compiled, and a underscore jsp.class file will be generated. So this is what you just need to remember with regard to the processing of JSPs. And next thing you need to remember is JSP also provides several predefined objects. Like in servlets we have seen that is request and response out, like that we have now. Similarly, JSP also provides several predefined objects, and the mostly used objects are out, request, response, session. As the names itself makes you understand, out is meant for writing something onto the page. Out is meant for writing something onto the page. Just like in servlets we have seen with the print writer na, like here we will be using out object in order to write something on the Java server page. And similarly, request is used to get the or read the values that are provided in the page. Similarly, response is used to redirect the information to the client. Similarly, session will hold that values, or it is used to persist all the values until the session is expired. Until the session is expired, session object will be used to persist the values. These are the majorly used objects in JSP creations generally. Apart from this, you also have other JSP objects like application, which is meant for entire application. Similarly, config object, page context object, exception object. Like this, you have several built-in objects that can be used directly without the need of creating objects explicitly and then using the appropriate properties or methods. I mean the data or the methods. That's what I'm trying to say. So you don't require any explicit creation of objects. Directly you can make use of the implicit objects of JSP in order to perform your operations. So this is what you just need to remember. And where do you create a JSP is again the same thing like earlier we have created. I think yesterday itself I have created the very first JSP here. So right click on the project. If it is servlet, you are going to right click on the SRC folder, and then you are going to create the servlet. But if you are creating HTML file or XML file or JSP file, you have to do right click on the project and then go to new and then select the appropriate web component. I hope you are able to understand. So if it is a servlet, you must and should do right click on the SRC folder, and then under the SRC folder you can go for creating a package and then create the servlet into it, or else directly you can create, which will automatically fall under default package. But whereas other web components like HTML file or JSP file or XML file, so in order to create these things you have to right click on project and then go to new and choose the appropriate file. So here you can find JSP file. I already mentioned in last session also. If you don't find here directly, go to other. There you can find web. Under web you can see all the web components. So click on this JSP file, and by default index.html is the first one that will be checked for running the project, that is the web project. If it is not found under the web, here under the web component, if it is not found, then automatically it checks for index.html, and next it checks for the index.jsp. So this is how the hierarchy it will be checking for. So otherwise you can directly give any other name, which you have to specify this in the URL along with the project. So I'm just giving the name first.jsp, and then click on finish. So this is how the header will be automatically added. So the complete information, it will be added by default. Here you can see this is the page directives. We will come for that discussion shortly. So this is the page directive symbol, and it is saying language is Java, and the content type it is going to contain is text or HTML, because within JSP you are going to place either your Java code or the JSP elements, or you are going to include the HTML code. That's why it's saying text or HTML, and character set is the ISO standard, and the page encoding again the same. These are all the inbuilt header information. And similarly document type, it is of HTML type, which will be which is meant for indicating that it is going to be displayed publicly. That's what here the tag public you can see here. So that's what it is mentioning. And this is nothing but the XML namespace. This is nothing but the XML kind of thing. DTD, here you can see document type definition. DTD stands for document type definition, and this is external DTD. We call this external DTD, which we will shortly discuss about it. So you can see how many things are being included. This is the JSP's page directive command, and this is the XML's external DTD specification. So external DTD can be specified in two ways actually. Since anyway today only we are going to discuss, I am saying you can either use public and specify this public DTD like this. This is the syntax of specifying the public DTD. If it is within your system, if the DTD is available within your system, you can specify system, and then you can give that particular URL. So it's up to you how you are going to specify, but this is the standardization now. That's why it is following the standard procedure. And here you can see, since this thing has to be displayed in the web page, the HTML syntax is also appended here, and the meta information is also added. Anyway, so let's just change the title. So my first JSP, something like that. And then within the body you can just include your JSP elements, or you can directly write the HTML code, or you can define your some Java functions, and then you can call them. All that you can do. I hope you are understanding. So within this body, what are the things you can place is, you can use JavaScript, you can use JSP scripting elements, you can use Java functions, you can define packages. All those things you can perform within this body. So first let us discuss scripting elements. So first let us discuss scripting elements. What are scripting elements? So scripting elements are meant for writing scripts into your JSP. Scripting elements are meant for writing scripts into your JSP. And there are four types of scripting elements. There are four types of scripting elements. So first and foremost, the scripting element we will look at is, so here you can see, and every scripting element will be enclosed within these angular brackets. And here percentile, as you can see, when I am typing, automatically it's coming. So percentile, and then equal to. So this is how you will be defining the expression scripting element. This is how you will be defining the expression scripting element. And what is this expression scripting element is meant for? So this expression scripting element will be used to define a variable or define a method. That is what you will be using this expression scripting element. Like here I can directly tell some n equal to 10. So now you can see what is happening here. So directly I am defining that here. Okay. Here you have to specify the type. So this comes under declaration anyway. This is not expression. So expression means you are going to evaluate to single value na. When you are saying equal to, that will be evaluated to single value. So okay, let me just change this. Yeah, now it's fine. So here you can see using exclamation mark, that is declaration. Now you can see the error is gone. So I'm just defining. So within this less than percentage exclamation, you have to perform the declaration. This is called declaration. So I'm saying int n equal to 10, and then I'm just closing this. And now let us look at expression. So percentile. So automatically it came equal to, and what I'll do is I'll just write the string. So n equal to plus n. So here you can see what I am doing. So equal to is expression na. So n equal to, this is the string concatenated with the n value. So let's run this and check. Even though it's very simple, first let us see how things run. So run on server, finish. So here you can see you are getting the output n equal to 10, because that's the statement I have given in the declaration na. Expression. So that's the reason you are getting that output. So what I have done is I have declared a variable n equal to 10, and then I have just used expression in order to display that particular output. And the same thing I can also do it with scriptlet. This is the another JSP element. Right now we are seeing two types of JSP elements. The first one which I have used is the declaration element. And for every JSP element, this is common thing, that is less than, percentage, and ending with percentage, greater than. This is the common thing for every JSP element. Only the first character after this less than percentage determines what type of element it is. So if the first character after this less than percentage is exclamation mark, it says that it is a JSP declaration element. It says it's a JSP declaration element. It is used in order to declare variable or method. Here you can see what I have done. I have declared n equal to 10, something like this. Similarly, let me quickly show you. You can also declare a method something like this. Simple method I will write int square of some x, and then so here you can see what I am doing. So within this I am writing int square of x, and the regular style of writing the body only. So return x into x. Okay, you have to specify the type now. Yeah, now it is fine. So here you can see what we have done. So here some variable I have defined, and then here you can see int square int of x. I have just defined that function, and then let us use another kind of thing. So here again percentile, and then so if you don't use anything, that we call it as scriptlet. That we call it as scriptlet. So here right now we have seen two of the elements, two of the JSP elements now. That is the one which starts with exclamation. It is meant for declaration, in which you can use it for declaring variables or methods. Here you can see this one, it is saying variable declaration. In this you can see we have declared a method, and here if it starts with equal to, it is an expression. It is an expression, and if I don't use anything, it is meant for the simple scriptlet. So now here you can see what I am doing, out dot println. So you don't require to write system dot out dot. So you just write out dot println, and even this out is the implicit JSP object. So out dot println, in this let me just write square of 5 is, and then plus you have to call that function. So square of 5 and then semicolon. Yeah, now you can see. So when I am saying scriptlet, you have to understand it's a blank one, which you have to include the regular Java syntax style only. So only difference is I am not using system dot because I am not interested to display this on the console. I am interested to see it on the web page. That's the JSP page I mean. So that's the reason we are using this. So I think now it should work. So out.println square of 5 is, and I have just concatenated by calling the function square of 5, which is going to return the value x into x. So let's run this and see very quickly. Run as, run on server, finish. Yeah, here you can see how it is coming. If you use system slash n, automatically it falls in new line. So n equal to 10 is being displayed, square of 5 is 25 is being displayed, whatever that value that is being returned from there. I hope you are able to understand this JSP elements. So this is the declaration, and every JSP element will be started by less than percentage and ended by percentage greater than, and within that whatever the character that you are using, if you don't use anything, that is the simple scriptlet which you have to write the same style of Java syntax. And here for declaring you will be using exclamation mark, and that declaration can be variable or method, and for writing expressions you will be using equal to. And you can just observe the difference between these two. I mean the selection here within the scriptlet we have to write this out.println, but if it is expression you don't require to write that out.println. Without writing out.println, directly you can specify in the expression. You can directly specify in the expression. I'll just show you once again. Here let me just remove this. I'll write only equal to, and then this one also let's remove. What's the mistake here? Square of 5 is plus square of 5. It's properly closed only, na? Which token it is asking to delete? Just a second. Multiple annotations form. There is a string, just like here we are having here also. There is a string, and then we are calling this square of 5. Square function we are just invoking. Expression equal to. Let's run this and see. I know it will be raising error, but still. So still it's coming, nothing error. So that is how you will be declaring that expressions. So with the use of expression, you don't require to write this out dot println also. That's the thing you can remember. I hope everyone understood this scriptlet. So scriptlet is so this is what scriptlet. Just ignore it. Anyway, it's coming there. Nothing wrong there actually. So this is what the scriptlet, and then this is what the declaration. This is what the expression. And how do you define comments in JSP? So you can just use this. Okay, after the double quotes we have to write that. So you know what comments are meant for. So comment will be not parsed, and this percentage I am missing every time. Control X, Control V. Yeah, so this is how you will be representing comments. So less than, percentile, two hyphens, and then you commented whatever the comment you wanted to give, that you can place, and then two hyphens and percentile greater than. So this is how you will be defining comments. And next is we have to discuss about the page directives. So page directives is also very important. So you can have three types of directives in JSPs. The first one is page directive. So page directive, what you can do with that is, let me show you. So the syntax is again the same, less than, percentile, and you have to include this at the rate. Here you have seen now the very first, like this. Here you can see. So this is how you will be using at the rate, and you can just write page import equal to, within double quotes you will be writing the package whichever you wanted, java dot util dot something like this, date. So I hope you got this. So this is how you will be using the page directive. So using page directive you can perform some import statements, all those things you can just do. Here also you have seen something like this you can just use. You can set uh, the information to the page. That means within this page you can have n number of functions na. So all those functions you can just use this date class, because I have imported here na, and this is how you will be doing. If it is for the standard Java application, you won't write like this equal to, you will directly say import java.util.date, that too without double quotes. But in JSP this is the syntax, so you have to write like this, at the rate page, and then import equal to whatever the package. Similarly, if you want multiple imports, you can just include them again the same way. Whatever the number of imports you wanted to do, you can just do all that. So that's the advantage. And similarly we also have, oh sorry, we also have other page directive like include. We also have another directive, include. So using this include, you can specify which is the one that has to be included here. So here you can specify the resource. I already mentioned just before, the resource can be a HTML file, the resource can be a servlet file, whatever it is. So within this I'll just specify second. So what is this? The servlet which we have created yesterday, na? So that one I have given. So similarly, you can even provide some HTML file or XML file or another JSP file, like that you can do. So you already have seen the purpose of include. So whatever the processing that will be performed, wherever you find this include, that particular thing will be included there. Suppose I am having some welcome message stream, welcome logo or something, that I can just include wherever I wanted. According to the place, automatically it will be included. So this is the purpose of the include. And there's another thing which is called tag library. You can also define a tag library. I don't want to get into that because it's not that important for even the real-time application development also. So I don't want to get into that. But just remember that so JSP provides three types of directives: page directive, include directive, tag library directive. So where the page directive is used for defining the attributes that apply to the entire page. So page directive is used to define attributes that apply to the entire page. And best example, as I have shown you just before, so you can just use this page import, and you can import some packages that applies for the entire page. So you can have n number of functions where you can use this n number of functions can use this particular date class. In this particular case I am saying. So likewise you can use include. So include, you can use it to specify the resources whichever you wanted to include. At whichever point you wanted to include, you can just write this include there. And basically it is used to include the contents of any resource, where your resource can be a JSP file, HTML file, a text file, whatever it is. And similarly the third one is the tag library directive, as I said you. So tag library directive is used to create a tag library with some prefixes. So yeah, that's what the major things. And similar to the, here we have seen first.java, second.java, the same application you can just try with JSPs also. Right now here we have redirected to the servlet. The same things you can just perform with JSPs also, without using servlets. I am saying without using servlets, you can just try modifying this code with respect to JSPs, and then you can experiment it how it is working. So that I am leaving it to you assignment. And even in your PBL app anyway, they have provided sample codes for all those things. You can just try and explore them. So without wasting any time, let me start the discussion on XML. And once I am done giving you the key idea of XML, I'll start the test. So these are the topics we need to cover under XML. So first we will be looking at quick theory, and then we will see how we create that, and then the DTD, which is the document type definition. Just now in JSP creation also I have just said you what it is that. Once again I'll reiterate that in my discussion. And then creating of namespaces, and then creating of XML schema. So schema is nothing but a structure that you define for your XML. So it's just the same, similar to the database schema. So only difference is the database schema is applicable for the database, whereas the XML schema is applicable for the XML file, whatever the structure, how it should be, what elements it should contain, and what each and every element should be of which type. All that information you are going to provide. Just like how you get information with a DESC particular table name in SQL. In SQL, when you give DESC table name, what you will be getting? The structure you will be getting, na? What are the uh, what do you say? What are the columns and what are the types? All that you will get information, na? Like that, you are going to define the structure for the XML file. That's with the XML schema. And lastly, XSLT, so extensible style language. So that is here extensible style sheet language. So it is just similar to CSS kind of thing. So whereas CSS you use it for HTML, na? So similarly you can have the style defined for your XML also. So that's what the key components what you can see here. Let's quickly look at this. So what is XML? So I hope all of you know this abbreviation. XML stands for extensible markup language. So XML stands for extensible markup language. So HTML stands for hypertext markup language. So similarly, XML stands for extensible markup language. As the name itself makes you understand, it is a kind of markup language. And I hope all of you might have gone through that definition of markup. So basically, markup describes the data in a document and how it should be interpreted. So anything within this angular bracket, that is less than and greater than, anything within the angular brackets, we simply call it as a markup. I hope you are getting the point. So basically markup is used to describe the data in a document and how it should be interpreted. And anything within this angular brackets, that is less than and greater than, we call it a markup tag. Let's quickly go through this introduction. I'm not going to take much time. So XML stands for extensible markup language and it is the standard used for data exchange. And here you can have user defined tags. That's what basically we will be using XML for. We can have the user defined tags rather than going for the predefined tags like in HTML. And it is the specification recommended by the W3C, that is World Wide Web Consortium. The definition is there anyway. And it is a structured markup language. And here you can see the comparison of HTML and XML. This is the comparison you can just understand. And this is what you can do. So you can separate data from HTML. These are the uses of XML. You can separate your data from HTML and you can use this for exchanging data. You can use it to store the data. You can even use this to share the data. So just like databases, you can even use XMLs also. You can just fetch data from this XML. You can add data to the XML, something like that. And this is the syntax. Here you can see person is the parent element. Just like in HTML case, you will be having HTML as the parent element now. So here person is the parent element, and then here you can see person element is containing 3 child elements like name, age, country, and again name attribute sorry, not attribute. Name value is Jesse, age value is 12, country value is India. Likewise, you can create several persons. Likewise, you can create several persons, and all those persons will be having these 3 values. I mean 3 elements: name, age, and country information. So like this you can use for storing the data. And here you can see every XML file will be having declaration definitely, and whether you write it or not, it will be automatically included. Just like how java.lang package will automatically be included with every Java file now, like that this version also will be included by default, that is version 1.0. And an optional DTD, that is the document type definition, is not mandatory to be defined. That's why it is given as optional. So here you can see this is what the standard declaration that will be included with every XML file. Even with this JSP which I have created, you might have observed This is the standard thing that will be done. And here you can see, as I mentioned, you can create user defined tags. Here name is the start tag, and this with prefix with forward slash, this is the end tag, and this is the actual value or content, whatever it is. And even you can specify attributes also, we will be seeing that shortly. Yeah, here itself you can see. So this is the attribute. So flower is the element whose attribute color is defined to be red, and its value is rose, and then closing. Here you can see attribute name and attribute value. So this is how you can even define attributes to your elements. So this is how you call a well-formed XML document. So according to W3C, which kind of XML documents are said to be well-formed means, so XML tags, anyway they are case sensitive, and must have only one root element, and every element must have a closing tag, and elements must be properly nested. Attribute values must always be quoted, either in single or double quotes. Even if it is a integer number also, you should quote it. I hope you are able to understand. Even if it is a integer also, you have to quote it if it is an attribute. Likewise here, as you can see here, you have to quote it, attribute value. That's what you call such XML documents as well-formed XML documents. And this is how you will be defining the comments in XML. So similar to this JSP comment style only, with only difference you will not be having percentages. After less than percentage and before greater than percentage will not be there, just like in JSP. That's the only difference, but this is the standard style for creating a comment. Yeah, separator will be colon, obviously. Separator is going to be always a colon, and this is a typical tree structure, how it look like. So here you can see country is the root element, and then country is having two sub elements, country name and capital, and then their corresponding values becomes the leaves. Obviously the root element will have sub elements which will be having values. So this is how you will be having. Okay, and these are the default types for the XML documents. And for attributes, when you are defining, you can specify element value is mandatory or optional. This is how you will be using. If you use this hash required, it indicates that value must and should be specified. You must and should include that particular element when you are defining. And if you are using implied means it's optional, even though you don't specify, no problem. And fixed value for defining constants. So here you can find the example also in this particular document of your PBL lab. You can find the example also. So here you can see how it is being defined. So exclamation mark at attribute list, and then book, publisher, C data indicating character data. Similarly you can also go for PC data indicating parsable character data. So generally we will be using parsable character data than compared to character data in real time XML elements. And here you can see the default value is mentioned orally, the author name, I mean the publisher. So that means if publisher name is not mentioned, automatically it takes the value of orally. That's what you need to understand by this default assignment. So if publisher name was not mentioned in the XML document, automatically it takes this. And here you can see hash implied indicates optional. So giving phone number is optional. I mean giving contact is optional. That's what you need to understand there. Similarly, if hash required is mentioned, compulsory the value should be given in the XML document. So this is what all you just need to remember with regard to DTD, that is the document type definition. And basically the DTD is used to define the document structure. along with all the legal elements and attributes. I hope you are able to understand. So DTD stands for document type definition. It's basically used in order to define the XML document structure along with specification of all legal elements and attributes. So that's what the DTD is meant for. And okay, let's get into this IDE. And again, as I mentioned, XMLs you are going to create under project, not under SRC. So right click on project, new, and here if you go to other, because I am not able to see in this listed options. So in the other, under XML tag, you can see what are the things you can create under XML. DTD file. If you want to create a document type definition, DTD file, you are going to choose this DTD file. If you are creating a normal XML file, you will use this XML. If you are creating the structure, I mean you are defining the schema, then you will be using this XML schema file. If you are specifying the style for the appearance of your XML file, then you will be using this XSL. So first let's create a simple DTD file. So next, and then extension of the DTD file is DTD. So let me just use the name test, or I'll use the name student, otherwise this is better. So we will create a DTD with the name student. So student.dtd. So here you can see, this is what I mentioned. When you use IDEs, by default this particular thing will automatically come, that is XML version equal to like this, encoding UTF-8. So Unicode, UTF means Unicode, Unicode will be included. So this is how you will be doing. And here what you can do is, when you are creating your own DTD, you can specify whatever fields you wanted. Like here you can just see what I am doing. So you will specify element, something like this. Automatically you can see the color change, element. So here I am writing student, and then I am mentioning within the brackets role, comma, name, comma, branch, and then closing this particular element. So here what you need to understand is, I am specifying that student is the element which is containing 3 sub elements. Here I am defining that student is a element which contains 3 elements. That's what this indicates. Now again what I will do is, again I will be defining those 3 sub elements. So element, and then role, and then we will be specifying its type. So as I mentioned, you can even use character data, but I am just going for parsable character data. It's up to you. Whatever the type you wanted to use, you can just use. In the previous case I have shown you in the document, you have all the supported types now. There you can see what are the different types you can use. But always it's preferable to go for parsable character data. Similarly, let me just copy this, otherwise I will be using the same for the remaining 2 elements also. I will just change the element name itself. That will be simple. And so here I will just use name, and here I will use branch. So this is how simply you can create. And it's always good to mention the doc type. So in previous cases also you have seen na. So for JSP also how the doc type is included. So like that, it's always better to include the doc type. Let me close this unwanted things now. We don't require anyway these things. So this web.xml also I don't require, because I am creating XML files only. So no need of any configurations. Yeah, let me come back. So here what you can do is, you can define the doc type like this. It's always good to use that. Even though you don't use it, it's optional actually, but still it will be good if we use this doc type. So what is our root element? My root element is student now, so I'll just define that this is a student root, and then you have to have this closing bracket as well, and then closing of the doc type tag. So here I have opened this tag na of doc type, so I'm just closing this. So here you can see I'm mentioning doc type, student as the root, and then within that I'm defining everything within the square brackets. I have defined element student with three sub elements, and I have specified what are those three sub elements are going to be. Like this you can just create. What happened? Contained or pointed by the document must be well formed. It is well formed only, na? It is well formed. Okay, let's just leave this here and go for creating a simple XML file. So new, and then go for creating XML file for that particular DTD. So XML file, and then here I'll use the same student dot XML, and then click on finish, and then here again the version is anyway there. Now what we'll do is we will try to use that particular DTD what we just created now. So for that what you will be doing is again the same way. So doc type student system, sorry, student, why caps lock is not turning off? And then you can specify that particular DTD file. So what is the file name I have used? Student.dtd I have used now. So I'm just using that student.dtd. So this is how you will specify the DTD. And this is what I mentioned here. Public DTD is being used. Here system DTD is being used. That's the difference. So these two ways you can use the external DTD. This is what we call external DTD. So DTD can be of two types, internal and external DTD. So internal DTD is a inline DTD kind of thing. So in the same XML file you are going to define the DTD as well here, but I have used DTD in separate file now. That's why we call this as external DTD. I hope you are able to get that point. So if you are defining the DTD also in the same XML file, then we call it internal DTD. If the DTD is defined, that is the document type definition is defined in a separate file, and if we are creating and using in a XML file, that we call it external DTD. So here I am using student, that is the root element. This is nothing but the root element, and then system, and then the file name. This is the DTD file name, and now we are going to create that XML. So the root element is student, and then within this student you are going to have name, sorry, first is role, and then here let me just create 1 2 3, and then next is a name, and give any value, and then what's the other one we created? So branch, so create that branch also, and then so this is it. Again, what reference file contain errors? So DTD is having errors. Okay, otherwise let me just exclude this doc type, Even if we don't give, it automatically be embedded. Yeah, I hope now it should be fine. Still error. The errors are removed anyway. Control yes, and then control yes. If I just run this, what happens? Let me see. So you can't run anyway. Just a second. So the DTD is defined properly. Doc type student is the root. The same thing we have said. System and then the file name. So it's proper only, na. Even here it is used the same way. Within double quotes we will specify. Okay, so this is how you will be creating the XML file. And coming to the namespaces, like in here you have did you see any namespace here? No namespace in this. So next topic we have to cover is the XML namespaces. So basically namespaces are used for avoiding any name conflicts. For avoiding any name conflicts we will be using this namespaces, and we can just group this attribute and element using these namespaces. That's what the major advantage that you get with use of namespaces. So here I'll just like this, you can just define. You can just specify any URI, and then you can just close this tag. So this is how you will be defining this namespace, and this has to be at the end. And even here what you will be doing is, instead of directly writing like this, you can just use it like this. Everywhere you will be using like this. Whatever that variable you have used now, the prefix variable, that you will be using for every element, that you will be using for every element. So why we will be using this is in order to avoid any name conflict. Like for example, you know that SQL package is having date class, and similarly util package is also having date class. Now if I import both the packages, and if I just say date equal to, when I am importing both the packages, and if I am saying date equal to, will it raise compile time error or not? I have said in the discussion session also. So definitely it will raise compile time error, because you are importing both util package and SQL package, and both of them are having this date class. So when you try to create object for the date, automatically it will throw error. I mean, compile time error will be raised because it will not understand, since both packages were imported and both packages contain the date class. So in that case, you will be having the name conflict now. In order to avoid that, we will be using the namespaces. Likewise, here we are using the namespaces. Now here st is the namespace prefix. We just call this as namespace prefix, which we use it for all the element prefixing. For all the element prefixes, we use this namespace prefix. And XMLNS stands for namespace. XMLNS stands for the namespace. And here student is nothing but the root element. Here whatever the student I have written now before this prefix, that's nothing but the root element. And then here whatever we have specified, this we call it as the URI. This we call it as the URI, that is the uniform resource indicator, which is nothing but the uniform resource indicator. So this is how we will be saying. That means this particular namespace is defined for that particular place. Like that, I am just saying, you will specify the URI where that namespace is being defined, and then you are using it with the root element and the prefix element. Now automatically what happens, just like for date also, there is difference between directly using date and using like java.util.date or java.sql.date. I hope you are catching the point. So there is a difference between the use of java.util.date and java.sql.date. Likewise, here also I am using the namespace with the prefix term. Automatically, if there is any other, like if I am having multiple namespaces being used in my XML document, and then definitely there comes conflicts. So in order to avoid that, we will be using this namespaces. Automatically, since I am using the prefix terms, definitely you won't get any name conflict, because in real time what we will be doing is, right now we are just learning with basic examples, but in real time definitely conflicts will occur, because we will be mixing multiple XML documents. We create a XML document from different XML documents, and every other XML document that you are including in your new XML document, you don't know what are the elements it might be consisting. Suppose if you are adding XML1, XML2, XML3, like this 3 XML files, and you may not be sure that what are the different element names that are there in all these files, but you are interested to use one particular element, and that element might be there in the other two documents which you have imported, included in your XML document. In that case, using the namespace by specifying the URI will identify without any conflict. So that's the basic difference with the use of this. And similarly, XML schema. The next discussion is XML schema. So as I already said when I was showing the introduction of topics, so basically XML schema is just similar to the database schema. So database schema, what it will do? It describes the data in the database. Similar to that, XML schema will define the data types associated with the elements and attributes of the XML document. So that's the basic point you just need to remember. And this XML schema will be used for validating the structure and context of the XML data. XML schema will be used for validating the structure and context of the XML data. So that's what you just need to remember. And as I mentioned, so it is similar to the same style of defining schema to a database. Only difference is that is applicable for database, this is applicable for the XML document. I already mentioned, rather than using to retrieve or store your information into the databases, you can also do the same things with XML also. You can also do the same things with XML also. I hope you are able to understand. So that's what the XML schemas is meant for. And in real time application developments, two types of XML schemas are used. The first one is relax ng, and the second one is the XSD, which will be included by default. So XSD stands for XML schema definition. XSD stands for XML schema definition. and some of them might be using this relax ng. So but XSD, you don't require any module installation. Directly you will be able to use this XSD. And that's what with regard to the XML schema definition. And lastly, XSLT, I already mentioned, it is the style that you are going to create to your XML document. It's the style that you are going to create to your XML document. So how you use CSS to the HTML, similarly you use XSLT for your XML documents. And lastly, I would like to discuss about the parsers, XML parsers. So what XML parser is meant for? So basically XML parser is a software library that provides interface for your front end client applications in order to work with the XML documents. I hope you are able to understand. So it's very important to understand this XML parsers, because parser is a API. You can just treat it like a API that is going to make your front end Java applications to work with the XML documents. So what it is going to do, it will be checking for the proper prompt of XML documents, and it also validates the XML documents. And by default all the modern browsers are equipped with this XML parsers, so which will be transforming your XML into readable code. That's what all the modern browsers are capable of loading this XML document, so they can directly transform the XML code into readable code. I mean, everyone can easily read that code. So that's what this parser is going to do. So but when you are creating your Java applications that will be using these XML documents, like if it is with databases, what you will be doing, you will use JDBC API na. So if it is with databases, what you are using, you are using JDBC API. Likewise, when you are dealing with XML, when you are storing data to XML, or when you are fetching data from XML, how you are going to do? You require certain API, and that API is being provided by the XML parsers. And here we have two types of XML parsers. I think I don't remember, but I think CSC students might have covered this XML parsers in their curriculum with the web technology subject. But EC people, definitely they might have not known about this XML parsers. So that's the reason I'm just relating your JDBC API, which is meant for to connect and parse the information that is there in the database. Likewise, here we are using XML parsers, which is a API that is used for parsing the XML documents. That's the reason I'm just comparing both. JDBC API for connecting to database and processing the data in the database. Likewise, XML parsers API for connecting to XML documents and parsing the XML data. That's the basic point you just need to remember. And here we have two types of XML parsers. One is the DOM parser, the other one is the SAX parser. So DOM stands for Document Object Model. Next, SAX parser. SAX stands for Simple API for XML. So these are the two types of parsers, I mean XML parsers that are in use. As I mentioned, DOM parser, that is Document Object Model parser. SAX parser, that is Simple API for XML parser. So these are the two XML parsers that are being used in the real-time application development for having the front-end client applications to work with the XML documents. That means the front-end client application can connect to this XML document, can fetch the data and can retrieve the data and can store the data to and from XML documents. That's what the point I'm trying to convey. So DOM parser and SAX parser. Why two parsers are available? Because JDBC API we have only one variety. Only that particular driver will change or that particular database might change, but the API is one. But coming to XML parsers, why we are having two flavors? So you need to understand the differences. So the difference is that, so DOM parsers is tree based parsing. DOM parser uses the tree based parsing, whereas SAX parser uses the event driven parsing. So this is very important for you to understand. So DOM parser uses tree based parsing. On the other hand, SAX parser uses the event driven parsing. And when I said tree based parsing, it requires to load complete XML document. It requires to load the complete XML document. So DOM parser, what it will be doing is, it's going to load the complete XML document before performing the parsing. Whereas SAX parser, it's modern approach and it is event driven approach, so it's not going to load the complete XML document. So it is going to load only those elements that are required based on the user interaction, based on the user interaction, or based on the user's input. Only that particular elements will be fetched. That's the other difference you need to remember. So complete document, complete XML document will be loaded with the DOM parser, whereas only the required information only will be fetched with the SAX parser. And with this statement, what I just said you now, you might be understanding which consumes more memory. So which parser will consume more memory? So it will be DOM parser that requires more memory. The reason is simple, because it will be loading the complete XML document now. That is the reason DOM parser requires more memory, and SAX parser requires less memory than compared to DOM parser, because it's going to fetch only on demand. And next, where and when you have to use which parser? That's the question. So when you have to use and where you have to use which parser? So basically DOM parser, we use it only for smaller applications. If the applications are large enough, then you cannot use DOM parser because of its tree based structure is one reason. The other one is, since the entire document has to be loaded, much more memory is required. So that's the reason we will be using SAX parser when the applications are too large. And another difference what also you can just remember is, DOM parser can be parsed in both directions. You can parse it from top to down or bottom to up. So DOM parsers can be parsed top to down or bottom to up, whereas SAX parser can only parse from top to down only. You can parse only from top to down. So if your required element is at the last, but still SAX parser, what it will do, any event that is triggered to fetch the last element of your XML document. So element by element it will be checking. Which one? SAX parser, it will check element by element from top to down. And your element, since it is at the last, every element is being checked. Every element is being checked. And then it reaches the last element, and then it understands that's the element you have asked for, and then it retrieves. So that's what SAX parser will be doing, since it follows only top to down approach, whereas DOM parser can perform processing in top down or bottom up approach. And that's the reason, even though despite of the advantages we have with SAX parser, DOM parser is only faster. DOM parser is faster than SAX parser. The reason is also because the entire document is being loaded into the main memory. Automatically anything being asked, automatically it can be returned very quickly. But coming to SAX parser, it has to check within the document, and once found, then only it will be fetched. So that's the reason SAX parser is slower than compared to DOM parser. So these are the advantages and comparison kind you can just understand. So these are the comparison about DOM and SAX parser. And as I mentioned, it's there for it's already there for CSE students. So I have just copied the same code. Here I have just fetched the code. So here you can see, because the code is large enough, that's the reason I have fetched it directly. So here you can see there is a code written which will be reading input XML file, and from that we are retrieving. And for DOM parser or SAX parser, it's compulsory to first build the factory object. So it's compulsory to build the factory object, and with the factory instance only you are going to create the new document builder, and then you are going to parse the XML document. Whatever it might be, whether it is DOM or SAX, this is the regular procedure. So first thing what you need to do is you need to create the factory instance, and with the factory instance you have to create the document builder, and then you are going to parse the XML document. And here we have created a XML document with a name. As you can see, input.xml. I have already done that because it takes time. So I have already done that. Let me just open and show you the structure of this. Here you can see this is the input.xml file, and here I have created three records. I have created three records, and here you can see three student records I have created. The first student record is 393, I mean the roll number, and the name is Krishna, and the last name is first name and last name. First name is Krishna, last name is Gopu, and nickname is Krish, and then marks 85. And then similarly one more student record is created with number 493, and then name Anusha, and then some last name, and then some nickname Anu, and then some marks 95. Something like this. I have created three records. Now what I am trying to do is I am trying to fetch this input.xml document into my DOM parser, and then I am going to process that. So as I mentioned, the steps are simple. Whether the parser you are using is DOM or SAX, just remember that first you need to create the factory instance. Using the factory instance you have to create the document builder. Using that you are going to parse the XML document, and then you are going to perform by getting tag by tag value, and then you are going to return the values that are required. So it's very lengthy code. Only EC people might face difficulty, but I hope CSE students might have already executed this, or I don't know, because by the time lockdown happened, I don't know whether they have executed this or not. I hope they completed this web technologies course in the last sem only. So if executed, it's fine. Otherwise, if you want, I can share these files. So this is the DOM parser. Let me just run quickly and show you what is happening here. So run as. So here I am using application because I am having main method. So it's a console based application. So here you can see what is being done. So it is just fetching all the records, because I said now DOM parser loads the entire document. So I have loaded the entire document, and I have just fetched the all records from the index.xml file. Input.xml file. So as I mentioned, I created three records now. All those three records I have just fetched it. As you can see here, element name, student, roll number, first name, last name, nickname, marks. So all the three records whatever I have given, I have fetched it, because it loads the entire document at a time now. That's the reason all the records are fetched. Now the same thing very quickly I will show you the difference with SAX parser. So here also you can see there we have created factory instance for DOM parser. Here we are creating factory instance for SAX parser. That's the only difference. And next we are parsing again the same way by passing that input.xml. And now here what, let me just run this. Use Java application and not server, but still why it is showing is because the project is created with a web project now. That's the reason run on server is also showing. If I have created this particular project as Java project, it will not be shown. So it is asking me roll number, so I am giving some roll number. So now you can see what is being done. So only that particular roll number which I have mentioned, only that record is retrieved. Only that particular record is retrieved. So this is what we mean by event driven. This is what we mean by event driven. I hope everyone understood. So just remember the differences between this DOM parser and SAX parser. Both parsers are meant for client applications to work with the XML documents, and all the modern browsers by default have this parser inbuilt. That's the reason we are able to see the XML files directly. And just remember the differences, that DOM parser loads the entire document at a time, whereas SAX parser loads or fetches only on demand. And traversing can be done by DOM in both directions, whereas traversing in SAX can be done only top to down. And more memory requirement is there for DOM, as entire document has to be loaded. And coming to speed, DOM is only speed. DOM is only faster than compared to SAX because of entire document being loaded at the time of creating the factory instance. So these are the things you just need to remember with regard to the parsers. The XML parsers. So I'll stop with that. I'll just stop my discussion on XML, and you can just go through all these documents in the PBL lab, and you can just use the code and try and experiment and see how it is working. All that you can just see. And as said, without wasting any further time, we are going to start the test. So in the group itself, I have already mentioned I am using quizzes. I don't know how many of you are used to that quizzes, because even this quizzes also I have learned from Wipro training only. So when I went to Bangalore for this training, there they used to conduct daily assessments for us using this quizzes platform only. So what you are supposed to do is, I don't know how many of you are using laptop or how many of you are using mobile phones. If you are going to use mobile phone, you should be minimizing this YouTube, and you should be opening the browser and performing the things what I am going to tell. So before that, I just want you to listen, because once you minimize YouTube and you open the browser in your phone, you may not be able to listen to me. That's the reason. I don't know how many of you are aware of this. Let me quickly demonstrate you. So what you are going to do in your machine is, if it is laptop, directly you can create a new tab. You can insert a new tab, and there you can just type this. I hope you can see this. Don't directly go. Those who are using mobile phone, please stay. Those who are using mobile phone, please stay, so that you listen first and then you can go. So those who are using laptop, you can directly click on new tab, and you can just type this URL, as you can see on my screen, quizzes.com/join, quizzizz.com/join. So you should be able to see home page something like this, and it will be asking you to enter a game code. So there I will tell you what will be the game code. Once I start the game, then the code will be generated. Even the code I am going to share it in our WhatsApp group. For those who are using mobile, I will share the code in the WhatsApp group. So just note down this URL. So what you need to type in the URL is quizzizz.com/join. So during the lockdown, some of your faculties might have used this quizzes.com for conducting unit-wise test also, which I have only demonstrated after coming back from Bangalore. So I don't know how many of you are used to this, but this is the URL. You just need to type in the browser. If using laptop, you can just click on new tab and give this URL. Those who are using mobile phone, you have to minimize this YouTube app, and then you need to open your browser, and then you need to give this quizzes.com join. And after you enter the game code, which I am going to tell you in 1 minute, within 1 minute I will start the test. So after you enter the 6-digit game code, so it will be asking you for name, and please enter the name as 18 hyphen last 3 digits of your roll number. Please don't give any names. Just mention 18 hyphen last 3 digits of your roll number. And if any lateral entries are there, sorry, I think you people belong to 17 batch, na? Yeah, it's my mistake. So you can just use 17 hyphen last 3 digits of your roll number. And if any lateral entries are there, you can use 18 hyphen last 3 digits of roll number. Please don't give any names because it's going on live. So no need to mention any names. Just mention, as I mentioned, 17 hyphen last 3 digits of your roll number. And if it is lateral entry students any, then they can mention 18 hyphen last 3 digits of the roll number. I hope everyone is able to understand what I am saying. So you just need to open this particular URL, quizzes.com/join, and then you will be able to see a text box with this enter a game code window, and there you will be entering the code which I am going to tell you in 30 seconds. Within 30 seconds I'll start it, and there after you enter the game code and press join, it will ask you for name. So there, as I mentioned, please mention your roll number, like I said, 17 hyphen last 3 digits of your roll number. Lateral entries 18 hyphen last 3 digits of the roll number. So I hope all of you are ready, and you can see for every question, please observe carefully and give the answer, and even if you give wrong answer, immediately it will show you the correct answer also on your screen. I want you to take it seriously. Even though it's a mock test, I want you to take it seriously, and even though you are keeping any wrong answers, observe what is right answer also. Observe what is right answer also. So I have set 20 seconds for each question, and 30 questions I created. So that means 30 into 20, 600 seconds, which is going to be 10-minute test. So it will be a 10-minute test. So I am ready with clicking on play live. So let me just start it. So here let me even enable you the power-ups. So you can just enjoy. So let me enable the power-ups. So this power-ups, what it will do is, like in games, you will be getting here 50-50 option. You can get eraser option. So you have to activate it before attempting the question. So into two you will be getting. That means if you are giving the correct answer, you will be getting 2 times the points which you are supposed to. But if you give wrong answer also, it will minus 2 times. So just make sure that when you are activating any power up, you know when to use. Accordingly, you can do that. So that's the reason I am enabling the power ups. So you can just enjoy this. And for every question, you can change. You can see that change in the leaderboard. So okay, I am giving even this option. Since it's the first time I am conducting, I am giving the redemption question. So if you are getting redemption question, it will prompt you with 1 dot, 2 dots, 3 dots. According to the dots you are going to select, once again the wrong answer, you can recorrect it. You can recorrect the wrong answer also. So that's why I'm just since it's the first time for most of you, I'm just enabling all these power-ups also. You can just play, it will be fun definitely, but with fun I want you to learn the things also. As mentioned, if you are giving wrong answer, see the correct answer, and even if you are lucky enough, whatever the wrong questions you have given, you will be getting the redemption question as well. So when getting a redemption question, you can choose 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dots accordingly. It's luck. Whatever the correct option you are going to choose, that many questions it is going to give you. Once again, you can reattempt and give that. And for every question, the leaderboard keeps on changing, and the fastest finger first will be getting more points. The fastest finger will get the more points. This is what about this quiz is very simple. So as mentioned, 30 questions, each question 20 seconds. So total duration 10 minutes. And if you are able to attempt the question within 2 seconds also, you can just move on to the next question. It's all in your hands only. And since it's first time most of you might be playing, I've just enabled all the power-ups also. Just see what are the power-ups you are getting. On the bottom left, you will be seeing all the power-ups that you have achieved. So you can just activate any power-up at the time of attempting the question. And as mentioned, 50-50 if you choose. I need not tell, I think. Most of you are familiar with playing games. You know what to do. So just take the power-ups also and try to learn the things as you play this particular game. So I'm just clicking on start. So you can just see the 6-digit code. Yeah, this is the 6-digit code. 128509. You can just type this code. I hope you know the URL, quizzes.com/join. Quizzes.com/join. That's the URL you need to give. Those are using laptop, you can just switch to new tab and then give this quizzes.com/join, and there you can enter this game code. 128509 is the game code. After you enter this game code, it will ask you the name. As mentioned, you just give the name as 17 hyphen last three digits of your roll number. Once you all join, I am going to start the test. Until that, please wait. So I'm still waiting for few more students because your total strength is 80, and even in the class I have seen even 64 and 66 students joining. So others quickly join. Because once I start, the test gets started now. That's why I'm just waiting for others to join. So carefully read the question. I have given somewhat tricky only. So carefully read the question and attempt the answers. And if you are doing some wrong entry also, don't worry. Just read the correct answer. So I want this to be a learning for you. Kindly utilize this for learning also, rather than just attempting for name purpose. So take it serious and see the answers whatever you are giving, whether they are correct or wrong, and if wrong, what is the right answer. Just carefully look that. It will definitely help your next week second milestone assessment exam also. So 65 have joined. Okay, then let me start. Others, whoever wants to join, let them join slowly. So here I go. minutes, guys. Let others also complete. If everyone joins on time, it would have been completed by now. 7 more students left. Just one person left. the final leaderboard. So congratulate to the top three, and I hope all of you have enjoyed it as well as learned whatever the mistakes you made. Also, I hope you have learned the answers. So I don't think you need to again post your roll numbers for attendance today, because since all of you have given already your roll numbers while joining this game, I'll directly take it from here. So be prepared for tomorrow's assessment test also on milestone 3. As said, tomorrow milestone 3 assessment test will be there. So be prepared for that. That's it for today. Let's end and meet tomorrow. Thank you and bye.